Hey guys, it's me, Mr. 250, and welcome back to Higurashi. Before we get started, just want to let you guys know, I did just get a new gaming laptop that I'm going to be recording on for the foreseeable future. And so, this is going to be the first Higurashi video I've done with it. So, going to be working at some kinks, and I'm sure weird stuff will be happening. Just have a little patience, and we'll get through it. And back to the story at hand. I suppose Keiichi had a real close call, but maybe might be safe. Maybe he won't get murdered in his sleep by the crazy lady who killed her boyfriend. Or maybe he will. I'm sure it's going to be exciting regardless. So let's continue. At first I thought it was a dream. I was staring at this strange sheet, not really understanding what it was. That was all. I didn't go after it, nor did I ridicule it. The fact was that the boring view was the ceiling of my own room, but I didn't realize that for a fairly long time. Yes. I thought I had been dreaming, but I'd actually been staring at the ceiling the whole time. Lethargy induced by the voices of the cicadas. Even after I realized I was awake, I couldn't draw forth the energy to sit up. Everything I could see, everything I could hear, everything was like a television broadcast that had already ended. It was hot. So hot I could choke on the heat. My back was moist with night sweats, and it felt gross. Unable to endure it any longer, I tossed in my futon, and finally blood started coursing through my brain. I lazily recalled the long day I had yesterday. The reality, as I lay here listening to the voices of the cicadas, and yesterday so different from it. In order to kill Satoko's uncle, I had rehearsed, formulated a plan, and dug a hole. It was very hot, and I was tired, wasn't I? And when evening came, I went to school and called him out on the phone. I panicked for a moment when he asked where the police station was, but it worked out. And then I awaited him, and swooped down. I couldn't remember anymore what sort of emotions I'd let control my body. In any case, it didn't go smoothly, but I did it. It was very hard to dig the hole for the body. That feel of the rain pelting down on me, I don't think I'll ever forget it. The rain, the mud, and the sprays of blood. The sensation of floundering in a swamp. When I met Takano-san on the way home, that wasn't good, no matter how I interpreted it. It was the most misfortunate, uncalculated thing that had happened that night. Everything would have been perfect, if only I hadn't encountered her. Ha! I was just riding my bike with my shovel in one hand through the downpour, utterly soaked. There was no way someone could surmise I was a murderer burying a body just from that information. Now that I was thinking calmly, napping under the morning sun, that's what I thought. Still, the more I think about Takano-san's eyes, it seemed like she understood. Takano-san, she knew that I'd kill someone, buried them, and that I'd been on my way home, exhausted. Takano-san wouldn't gain anything from selling me out to the police. But that didn't mean I could feel at ease. I'd crossed such a bridge to get my tranquil life back, and I'd finally achieved it as a result. But now for the rest of my life, For all the tranquil days starting today, I'd have to live in fear of when they could suddenly end. I may have twisted my ankle, dulled from total exhaustion. The fact that I couldn't make the snap judgment I needed to, I regretted it more and more as time went on. You didn't have a choice, Keiichi Maibara. You didn't have any choice at the time. You were tired. You were a mess. Even if you'd made the decision, you might not have even been able to kill her. She might have just beaten you instead. In that sense, parting ways uneventfully could have been the safer option. No matter how sharp Takano-san's intuition was, she had no proof. Her suspecting me didn't amount to evidence by itself.
理屈じゃ分かってるさ。でも、だからって何の心配もないってわけじゃないだろう。
Just worry about it when the time comes. Now isn't the time to be worrying. It's the time to be smiling, right? You accomplished so much, just to gain a new life starting today, didn't you? Then you should be happy at this new morning. If remembering the past is too hard for you, then just consider everything up to yesterday as having never happened. You said so yourself. You'd bury it all like it never happened. Well, your wish came true. Everything before yesterday never happened. So be happy, Keiichi Maibara.
Why?
I stuck up my hands lazily. It felt a little silly for me to be the one doing it. I heaved a sigh from deep in my belly. That sigh got my lungs moving. It felt like I hadn't been breathing until just now. It wasn't enough to admonish myself over. All the dice that could be thrown already had been. And the numbers that turned up weren't bad at all. If I lost with those numbers, then I'd just have to give up, I guess. I grabbed the chest of my pajamas and flapped it back and forth. Cool air flowed over my sweating body. Okay. Nothing before yesterday happened. Nothing. Nothing at all. I'd forget it all. Yesterday was all a dream. What time is it? About midday? Getting myself up and going to school this late seemed kind of absurd. But I needed to go. I felt like going to school would be the first step into my peaceful new life. I didn't care how late it was. I would go. I'd go to school right now and get back to the life I'd retaken as soon as I could. My lazy body immediately became lighter at the thought. I rolled up out of the futon, bounced onto my knees, then leapt upright.
10.0
I stuck out my chest with pride at my gymnast-like pose, then took a deep breath of fresh air. The brisk morning air had been gone for a while, replaced by the crisp air of summer. Downstairs, I got a stern talking to by my mother. Where were you last night? When did you get back? You need to tell me when you won't be home for dinner. Things like that. But considering the importance of what I'd accomplished yesterday, a little scolding was no problem. In fact, it even felt like the sort of thing that would happen in such a peaceful life. I listened with an irresponsible smile and stepped out into the sun high overhead. It was around the time lunch break would be ending. Everyone would probably be worrying about me. I didn't go to the festival, and now I wasn't at school. Well, maybe they weren't too worried about it, since they would have gotten a small piece of news, but a happy one from Satoko today. Yes, my uncle, he got beaten to death by a bat? Yes, the small piece of news that her uncle hadn't come home last night. Satoko would probably live her days in nervous tension for a while, thinking he still might come home. But eventually those days would end. And finally, Satoko too would realize her uncle was never coming back. And then Rika-chan would quietly invite her. She would say, "You can live with me again." And everything would be back to normal. Our lives would go back to how they were before that man appeared. Satoko would start wearing that extraordinary smile, complete with those protruding canines, and fool everyone with those traps she was so proud of. The end. That's all the story. Nothing bad ever happened to Satoko ever again. I'd probably be her first target out of everyone, but I wouldn't be mad. Sorry, give me just a sec. Alright, sorry about that, I had an important phone call to take. In fact, I might actually shed tears of joy at the return of something so normal. Satoko. She'd gradually grow back into that meddlesome personality of hers. I mean, my lack of useful life skills was already completely exposed. I wondered if I'd ever be a match for Satoko. But that would be such a pleasant thing to see too. I feel like this, he's gonna get to school and she's not gonna be there. Something tragic is going to have happened. And with such warm, fuzzy predictions, I didn't feel bad for going to school so late. In fact, I wanted to run there now to get there as soon as I could. Instead, I decided to savor the peacefulness of just going to school like normal, without running. The world I'd obtained for myself, that gave me joy just by walking like this. Yes, the world beginning on this very day was something I had won. Without that monumental feat yesterday, I would never have been able to come to school so cheerfully today. The school gate came into sight. Just then I heard the principal ring the bell to mark the end of lunch break. It was a clear, refreshing sound. I stopped, despite myself, and let myself take it in. Tap. I had stopped suddenly. So there was an extra footstep. Oh no. With a noise, the blessedness I was feeling throughout my whole body withdrew into any pore it could find. And as if to replace it, I felt like hundreds of hairy caterpillars were climbing up my feet. I turned back, but of course nobody was there. A single footstep could have easily been my imagination. But the footstep felt so ominous. That extra footstep I'd heard after seeing Takano-san off last night. With everything that happened on that insane night, I didn't mind something like that happening once. It had been a hell of a night after all. In fact, having just one hallucination was pretty fortunate. But those footsteps should have ended with yesterday, so if I heard them again today, there was really only one thing it could have meant. Last night still wasn't over. It was still going. Still. That insane night. Forever. The step I heard. Just that one extra footstep was quietly ridiculing the nonsensical notion that the world starting today was completely different from the one that ended yesterday. My classmates playing in the schoolyard all vanished inside like the tide going out. When I approached the school, it felt like that warm, fuzzy scene had ended, and it didn't feel good. At the entrance, I took a quick look in everyone's shoeboxes. Satoko Hojo, she was here. Mion was here too. And Rina, of course. Even Rika-chan was here. Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun were here. In fact, I didn't see any missing classmates. If there were shoes missing, they would have to be my own. I took my shoes off and stuck them in, then took out some slippers. There wasn't a single pair left in the shoe boxes anymore. With that, they returned to their rightful state. But as I stepped up onto the wooden floor, I noticed there was just one pair of slippers left. Huh. Whose?
王女サトシ。
Oh! Satoshi, who'd never been to school since, disappearing last year. Until now, we'd committed the exact same act of violence, but I guess in the end it went differently. You couldn't make it to school, but here I am. I didn't repeat the same mistake you made. I wasn't about to let myself feel superior about that. In fact, I felt an odd sense of familiarity with him. A misfortunate bond with someone I'd never met due to following the same fate. I headed down the hallway towards the usual classroom. It felt like it'd been a whole year since coming here. Hey, did you forget Keiichi Maibara? Satoshi Hojo didn't really disappear in the night of the Watanagashi, did he? Satoshi Hojo disappeared a few days later. On Satoko's birthday, if I was right. I didn't know what day it was, but I couldn't say for sure I'd avoided Satoshi's failure unless I remained here past that day. I was still living in that night of insanity. The teacher still hadn't come to the classroom. The other door clattered open, the one the teacher wouldn't use, so everyone turned at once to see who'd arrived. Everyone looked pretty vacant. Suppose I'll greet him.
おはよう諸君。出迎えご苦労であるぞよ。
Silence. When I started to think I'd fallen flat, someone finally started laughing for me. Sorry, another call. Got a lot of stuff going on right now, so I can't guarantee that won't happen again. So when I started to think I'd fallen flat, someone finally started laughing for me. Is it Satoko? Oh, it's Mion.
おはようケイちゃん。今朝も飛ばしてるね。飛ばしてるね。ケイチ君、まだお祭り気分が抜けてないのかもしれない。
Oh? Hearing Mion and Rena's cheerful voices made me realize how dumb those dark feelings I'd been having at the entrance really were.
おいおい、お祭り気分って、そもそも俺。
At the festival at all, remember? Uh-oh. Oh. Before I could say that, Rika-chan smiled at me.
ケイチはちゃんと僕の演舞見ててくれましたですか？ちゃんと見てたよ。あんなにいっぱい拍手してくれてたのに、リカちゃん気づかなかったのかな。ケイちゃんにシオンのやつがちょっかい出してきたのを無視してね。シオン、ざまあなかった。ああ、いい気分。
Mion starts laughing at the memory. She slaps me a few times on the back.
それで、あの射的屋の対決って結局どうなったんですか？
Tomita-kun was facing me and talking. There was nobody behind me. That meant he was talking to me?
あれは結局、富田家がビリだったのですよ。
Get it because he's
み
dead?
んなで楽しく罰ゲームをしましたです。
Got spooky background noises.
リカちゃんも実質ビリみたいなもんだったじゃない。あそこで起死回生の大技でガムをゲットとは、さすがは我が部の部員。見事だったよ。
Crying at a time like that as if he'd only Furude would be allowed to do. said Okamura-kun, breathing heavily from his nose. In my direction. Everyone laughed. If anyone but Rika-chan had done it, it would have been against the rules. Rika-chan gave one of her nipa smiles as she listened to it. In my direction. It's like they're speaking to me. Rena too turned to me. No, turned towards me. And then with a somewhat embarrassed smile, she whispered to me so only I could hear.
でも本当にケイチくん、
何がだよ。
あのでっかいぬいぐるみすっごく嬉しかった。大事に枕元に置いてるんだよ。ちゃんと寝る前にお休みのキスしちゃった。
The class laughed at that, cheering and jeering. This whole time, the conversation had been a little bit off. I wasn't quite getting it.
ぬいぐるみがどうしたって？
どうしたって、昨日のお祭りでみんなで頑張って落としたよ。でっかいぬいぐるみ。でっかいぬいぐるみ。
Rena seemed taken aback, but when she answered, she did it with a smile.
なかなか倒せないから額を狙ったり素早く何発も撃ったりしていろいろと試したんだよね。
Oh, it's got the spooky music again. Oh, you know what I just realized? I wonder if all of my settings for audio are back. No, it looks like they're... I think they're adjusted like I had them still. I think they are. I didn't actually, take the saves from my other computer. I downloaded it, and I think Steam Cloud actually had my saves, so I think it saved the audio settings? I think they're good. They sound a little quiet, but then again, maybe they're alright.
それでケイチくん、鉄砲を何丁もあらかじめ用意して素早く撃ってみせてくれたんだよね。かっこよかった。
Wait, who is this?
あの後の飲み会でさ、町内会の会長連中にもケイちゃんの評判すごく良かったんだよ。ケイちゃんの売り工場に惚れたって騒いでたのは子供会の君吉徳蔵会長だったかな。次の祭りではぜひケイちゃんに何店舗か任せたいって言ってた。徳蔵はお祭りの実行委員会の模擬店部長さんなのです。
My Bar-san is great at making things sound good, isn't he? Yep, whenever he talks about something, it seems a lot better than it actually is. Ha ha ha, you can't say that. Ha 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 ha.
ケイチくんって売り子さんの才能があるんだね。きっとバナナの叩き売りとかやったら上手だと思うよ。
さっきから何の話だよ。だいたい俺
Didn't go to the festival in the first place. I swallowed those words. I didn't know exactly why, but in Hinamizawa, this is what had happened. Yesterday during the Watanagashi festival, Keiichi Maibara had appeared, and he had romped about with all the usual members of this club. He made a big scene at a few of the stalls, snatched a few sticks of takoyaki and okonomiyaki in his glee, rating each of them as delicious or terrible to get everyone excited. And they'd seen a giant stuffed animal at the target practice game, and everyone went after it. And then I got a whole bunch of the cork guns, firing them in rapid succession, throwing each one away after using it. And admirably, I shot down the biggest stuffed animal there. And then I gave the stuffed animal the proof of my victory to Rena as a gift. Then our fun came to a close as we had to go see Rika-chan's offertory dance. There was a ton of people squeezed in there, and we all got separated, but we each managed to get into good positions to cheer Rika-chan on from. Then in the middle, when Shion came up and asked me to go hang out with her instead of watching the dedication dance, I refused and stayed put, watching the dance until the very end. So that actually sounds like a mixture of... That sounds like a mixture of the first and the second games, I think, right? I think so. Because we went with Shion in the second one, and in the first one we had all this stuff happening. Although I think... No, it didn't happen in the second one. I mean, it may have happened, but it didn't get detailed as much. But who? Who was that? Well, everyone's been saying it, haven't they? Keiichi Maibara. I had an urge to yell in anger at my classmates for having so much fun talking about the festival yesterday with Keiichi Maibara. What in the hell are you guys even talking about? Far stronger than that feeling, though, was the sheer uncanny nature of this reality I couldn't understand. Keiichi Maibara, who wasn't me, was in Hinamizawa yesterday. As I threw away my humanity, turned into a demon, and was busy beating Satoko's uncle to death. I was having a great time at the festival last night. What the heck? I had to suffer through so much, desperately holding back tears, getting so worn out in that downpour, digging holes, chasing, beating, killing, dragging, and burying. Who was this Keiichi Maibara who had ignored me so and spent such a fun, carefree time at the festival, dang it? Who the heck stood in for me as I put my life on the line, working so hard to achieve this treasure-like everyday life? If there's another Keiichi Maibara besides me, then what was I? On the night of the Watanagashi, where one died and one disappeared, in accordance with Oyashiro-sama's curse, there was only a demon who had killed someone. Dumbfounded, as I succumbed to a horrifying possibility, I looked around at my classmates to make sure there was nobody extra I didn't recognize among them, to make sure I wasn't among them. It was a horrifying thought that the real Keiichi Maibara hadn't overslept and had come to school on time, and that I, who was no longer Keiichi Maibara, had just waltzed in here. But no matter how much I checked, the only people here were ones I knew. The man I met every time I looked in a bathroom mirror was not here.
Hi. 午後の授業を始めますよ。皆さん、席に戻ってください。委員長、号令。
You'd think she would say something about Keiichi being late, but she doesn't appear to be. The teacher entered and everyone hurried back to their seats. Upon finding me who was so stupidly late, she gave me a stern talking to, but I wasn't listening to it. Wasn't our old life supposed to start today? Something wasn't right. It was just strange. I was supposed to go back to my old fun life after yesterday. I had set foot in an incomparably mysterious world that was completely different from both my old life and my recent one. Yes, this was without a doubt a different world than the one I'd been living in until now. There was no way such an absurd thing could be possible. But unless it was true, I couldn't explain anything that just happened. In this classroom, I was surrounded by so many faces I knew, and yet I felt isolated. The cicadas sounded no different than they had before now, but they seemed somehow false. The air was parched and dry too, making me think, was the air in Hidimizawa always this uncomfortable?